My married 30F, friends 28F, swinger boyfriend 38M, groped me and tried to make a move while I was drunk. I'm really conflicted about this whole situation and don't know how to handle my feelings. I'm a 30-year-old woman and my friend Lola, who is 28 years old, has been in a relationship with a guy who we'll call Carl. Carl is 38 years old and they've been together for a while now. What complicates things is that Carl has a history with his previous marriage, which I only found out about through Lola. Carl was married before, and during his marriage he and his ex-wife were involved in a swinger lifestyle. They openly participated in swinging, which is something that I was honestly a little shocked to hear about when Lola first told me. At beginning, I didn't know how to feel about Carl's past, especially knowing that it was something he was open about with Lola. While I try to be non-judgmental and accept that people have different lifestyles, I can't help but feel uneasy about it. It's hard to reconcile this part of his history with the person he is today, especially since Lola has never been part of that lifestyle and doesn't seem to fully understand or relate to it herself. There's a lot of mixed feelings involved here and I just don't know how to approach it. I don't want to seem like I'm overthinking things, but the more I think about it, the more complicated the whole situation becomes. Now, it appears that Lola and Carl have developed a similar dynamic to the one Carl had with his ex-wife. As much as I may have initially felt uneasy about Carl's past, I never judged Lola and Carl for how they choose to live their lives. To each their own. I've always respected their relationship, and I've never once tried to impose my opinions on them. From what I've seen, Carl treats Lola well and has always been nothing but kind and respectful toward me. He has been a genuinely nice guy, and I never felt the need to question their relationship or discuss it with Lola. Their dynamic seemed to work for them, and I've always believed that people should be free to make their own choices without interference from others, as long as they are happy and respectful. I didn't feel the need to raise any concerns or have a conversation with Lola about it because I didn't see anything that warranted it. They seemed comfortable with each other and I trusted Lola to handle things in her own way. Besides, Carl had always treated me with kindness and I appreciated that. All of this led me to believe that their relationship, however unconventional it might seem to some, was their own business, and I didn't need to get involved or question their choices. But then 2 weekends ago, which just so happened to be my wedding weekend, everything took a very uncomfortable turn. We were all out together having a good time and drinking heavily. Carl, who had always been friendly and respectful to me before, did something completely unexpected and inappropriate. While I was sitting down, he touched me in a way that was completely uncalled for. I immediately jumped up, feeling shocked and uncomfortable, and tried to brush it off, hoping that maybe it was some kind of drunken mistake. However, just a few minutes later, Carl crossed another line by making another inappropriate gesture. At that point, I was stunned and I didn't know how to react. It was clear to me that this was no accident. I couldn't keep this to myself, so I decided to tell my husband, Sam, about what had happened. Sam, who is a 29-year-old guy with a super easygoing and non-confrontational personality, has always been someone I can count on. I absolutely love that about him. But that night he was also pretty drunk, and when I shared what Carl had done, Sam just laughed it off. He seemed to think it was all just part of the drunken chaos and that nothing serious had happened. At the time, I didn't know whether to push the issue or let it go, so I decided to let it slide and hoped it was just some bizarre misunderstanding. We went home, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease about what had just happened, especially because it was so out of character for Carl and just felt wrong. Fast forward to today, and I received a call from my other friend Kate, who is 32 years old. She told me about an experience she had over the weekend, and it left me feeling even more uneasy about everything. On Saturday, Kate was out at the bars with Carl, Lola, and another guy named Rick. They were all hanging out and drinking, and at some point during the night Carl and Lola gave Kate some substances, and everyone got very drunk together. Carl was the one who insisted that they all go back to Lola's place, and it seemed like he had already decided how the night would unfold. Once they were at Lola's, things started to get uncomfortable. Carl encouraged Rick to make advances toward Lola, which he did, and that led to some behavior that Kate felt was inappropriate. Kate said she felt awkward and uncomfortable, but the situation escalated when Carl started getting too close to her and acting in a way that made her feel uneasy. At this point, Kate was feeling way too intoxicated and overwhelmed by everything happening around her. She said that she pretended to feel sick from the substances to avoid being involved in what was happening, and she locked herself in a room to try to escape the situation. She was too drunk to leave on her own and didn't know how to get out of the uncomfortable situation she was in. Kate mentioned that she had no idea that Lola and Carl had been trying to set something like this up for a while. They had been hinting at introducing her to Rick, saying things like, "You have to meet Rick," and making it sound like it was something that was supposed to happen. Kate feels like it wasn't just an accident or a spontaneous event, but something that was premeditated and planned. She had no idea that she would be pulled into their dynamic, especially under the influence of alcohol and other substances. The whole thing caught her completely off guard, and she never expected it to go as far as it did, let alone be dragged into a situation she wasn't prepared for. Now I'm feeling a flood of emotions that I can't seem to make sense of. If I had continued to keep what Carl did to me the other weekend to myself, and if Kate had ended up being taken advantage of in the same way, I would have never been able to forgive myself for not speaking up. It's hard to shake the feeling of guilt for not addressing the situation sooner and for not being more vocal about what happened when I had the chance. I also feel a sense of resentment toward my husband for how he reacted to what I told him. His response made me feel as though Carl groping me wasn't a big deal, and that only convinced me to push my own discomfort aside. Now, looking back, I'm mad at myself for allowing myself to be convinced of that and for not trusting my instincts sooner. I've always been someone who believes in people living their lives and leading their relationships however they want, as long as everyone involved is happy and consenting. But at the same time, part of me wonders, shouldn't it always be between consenting adults? Is it fair to cross boundaries even if it seems like it's all just part of their dynamic? I'm torn because part of me wonders if I'm overreacting to all of this. Maybe they were just testing the waters and didn't mean anything by it. After all, they never physically forced us into anything. But the bigger part of me feels like this was a massive overstep and that what happened shouldn't have occurred in the first place, no matter what their intentions were. Now I'm left wondering what I should do next, especially when it comes to Lola. I've been friends with Lola for 8 years and she's been in a relationship with Carl for about a year now. I feel so conflicted because I don't know how to address what happened with her. If I confront her about this, what should I even say? I don't want to lose our friendship, but I also can't ignore what happened. How do I approach this without making everything worse or damaging our relationship beyond repair? My husband has since apologized for his initial reaction, and he asked me what he could do to make things right. He said he wants to confront Carl about what happened, but I told him that I never expected him to do that. I appreciate that he wants to take action now, but what really bothers me is that he invalidated what happened to me in the first place. I told him that what really hurt was that he made me feel like it wasn't a big deal when I was clearly uncomfortable and violated. I even asked him if we ever have a daughter and she was groped in a bar, would he just laugh it off and say, he was probably just drunk? I think that really hit him hard because it made him realize how serious the situation was. It wasn't just something to brush off, and it was something I should have been supported for, not dismissed. His apology was a step in the right direction, but I can't shake the feeling of disappointment that his first instinct was to downplay my experience. I'm pretty torn up about it and don't know what to do. She's first edit to post, "Thank you for all the insight and for validating my concerns to hear that you and Kate have decided to confront Lola separately about what happened. It sounds like you're taking a thoughtful approach to the situation, and I think being honest with her about your concerns is a necessary step. It's understandable that you hadn't considered the possibility that Lola was a willing participant in all of this, but after talking with Kate, it's clear that there are some signs that suggest Lola might have been aware of what was happening but didn't address it. It's also important to recognize that Lola's behavior, like not responding when Kate asked what was going on, could suggest that she might be uncomfortable or unsure about her own involvement in these situations. It's also great that you're reflecting on the events with Carl, like how he pressured you into taking shots. At the time, it might have seemed like innocent fun, but now that you've had time to process everything, it's clear that there were subtle signs of manipulation that you might not have noticed in the moment. It's important to trust your instincts now that you have a clearer perspective on what happened. I really admire how you're approaching this with a balance of concern and understanding. Lola is clearly someone who's been through a lot, and it's possible that Carl has influenced her in ways that she might not fully recognize herself. It's okay to be compassionate, but it's also important to set boundaries and prioritize your own well-being. You're right, she's an adult and ultimately she has to make her own decisions, but it sounds like you want to give her the opportunity to realize what's going on, if she hasn't already. I'm glad that Kate feels comfortable processing everything with you as well. It's good to have someone to lean on, especially when it feels like everything is still so overwhelming. I'm sure that confronting Lola and being honest about your concerns will help you get the clarity you need, and it might be a wake-up call for her too. No matter what happens though, I hope you're able to make decisions that are best for your mental and emotional health moving forward. Take care of yourself through this process, and I'm really glad that my comments have been helpful to you. She's second edit to post is, I spoke with Lola about how Carl assaulted me. I cried and tried to be as blunt as possible. She seemed surprised and upset and said although they are swingers nothing like this had ever happened before. Obviously I know this isn't true based on what I know happened to Kate. I also told her I'm concerned about her and that I want her to be with someone who respects not only her friends but her too. After our phone call she sent me this text. I love you so much and I am so sorry. I really don't have words for how I'm feeling right now. I just feel devastated that this happened and how it's made you feel heartfelt. Please know that there is absolutely nothing in the world that you should ever feel like you have to keep from me. I may not always react perfectly in the moment, but I will always respect you and your feelings no matter what. I hope you didn't think that I was making excuses for Carl at all. There is no excuse for those actions, drunk or otherwise. It will not happen again. I promise you that. I also want to thank you for looking out for me regarding the matter. That means a lot. There's nothing else I should know, right? I don't get to see Carl until Thursday and I need to have this conversation with him in person. So I'm going to gather my thoughts and wait to address it with him until then. I'm so sad and so sorry. If you wanna or need to talk about this or anything, I'm here for you. I love you so much. Honestly, after thinking about everything that's happened and processing my feelings, it really seems to me that Lola is more upset about how Carl's actions have affected me personally than she is about the actual behavior he displayed. It feels like she's focused on how the situation impacts our friendship and her own guilt, rather than truly grappling with the fact that Carl crossed boundaries and acted inappropriately. I can't help but feel a bit disheartened because her reaction doesn't seem to reflect the seriousness of Carl's actions. It's as if she's more concerned with what this means for her relationship with me and how she can fix things rather than confronting the behavior itself. I really wish she would focus more on the bigger picture and recognize the severity of Carl's actions, not just how it affected her personally. Now, Kate has made the decision to talk to Lola about what happened to her as well. I think this is an important step for Kate, as she's been carrying this experience with her and needs to express her own concerns. We both hope that by sharing our experiences, it will serve as a wake-up call for Lola. Maybe hearing from both of us, someone she's close to and trusts, will make her realize that Carl's actions aren't just a one-off mistake or something that should be brushed aside. We're really hoping that this conversation will open her eyes to what's been happening and help her understand the full scope of the situation. If, after all of this, Lola decides to stay with Carl, I've made up my mind that I won't be seeing him or likely her again. I can't continue to be in a situation where I feel unsafe or uncomfortable, and it would be hard to reconcile continuing a friendship with someone who chooses to remain with someone who has shown such a lack of respect. It's not an easy decision and it's not one I've taken lightly, but my priority needs to be my own well-being, as well as the health of my friendships and my relationship. It's a hard position to be in, but I know that I have to stand firm in my boundaries to protect myself and my peace of mind. Just taking it one day at a time at this point and still trying to cope with and process it all. She has posted an update. After my conversation with Lola, I felt good. She was incredibly apologetic, and she seemed genuinely horrified by what had happened. Lola listened to me carefully and acknowledged my feelings, which was important to me. She then spoke with Carl, and according to Lola, Carl claimed that he doesn't remember the incident but expressed a desire to apologize. I told Lola that I didn't want an apology from Carl, especially about something he doesn't even recall. I explained that this situation was deeper than just receiving an apology and that it was something Carl needed to reflect on within himself. I made it clear that this wasn't about seeking his remorse, but about holding him accountable for his actions. Lola reassured me that she was there to support me in any way I needed as I navigated my emotions about the whole situation, which I appreciated. However, despite the conversation and her acknowledgement of what had happened, Lola and Carl are still together. This has left me feeling uncertain about how to proceed with everything. On one hand, she seemed to validate the fact that Carl had assaulted me, but on the other hand, she's choosing to stay with him. I can't help but feel conflicted because it's hard to reconcile the fact that she recognizes the seriousness of the situation, yet continues to maintain her relationship with him. I hope that at some point, this will plant a seed of doubt in her mind that will lead her to reconsider her decisions and allow her to see the truth more clearly. However, for now, I'm going to take some time to distance myself and process everything. I feel like this space is necessary for me to evaluate how I want to move forward with our friendship. Kate, on the other hand, hasn't had the chance to speak with Lola yet. She's tried reaching out a few times, but every time Lola has been with Carl. It's becoming more apparent that Kate will have to confront Lola at some point soon, especially before the weekend. The plan had originally been for the entire group to go on a trip for Lola's birthday, but given what happened, Kate has decided to back out of the trip. She intends to tell Lola the real reason why she's backing out, which will likely be an important moment in their friendship. I'm not entirely sure if that conversation will be the turning point that forces Lola to see things more clearly, but I hope it will have a significant impact. I think it's crucial for Lola to hear Kate's perspective as well, especially since Kate is processing her own feelings about what happened. Maybe this will be the moment that makes Lola reevaluate everything, but I'm uncertain if it will be enough to make her break away from Carl. Regardless, I hope it helps in some way. Thank you so much for listening story to the end. If you enjoy our videos, so don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Have a good day, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it and hit the notification bell icon to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.